Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to the Scream Scene. I'm Jody Dean. Make sure you're subscribed with those notifications on. You're smashing that thumbs up, commenting on the videos. We post every week here on the Scream Scene. Let me get a little sip of this coffee before we talk about In a Violent Nature. So, this last weekend, I went and seen Chris Nash's In a Violent Nature film. First off, I want to say I now understand. I was very excited from seeing like posters and the trailer, but after seeing the film, I understand, and and clearly I can see now. Chris Nash has a style. This film, its tempo, um, its simplisticness, but terrifyingness is so evident from the beginning to the end. There is a certain pace in this film um that builds intensity and is scary in itself. The way that it is shot, there are some shots that um they're very slow, they're very ongoing, and I found myself a couple of times saying, come on, come on. And after I watched it, I was like, you're not used to this. What that is I seen something different. And when you're talking about a slasher film, that's something that the horror genre needs time to time. They need something different that is not like everything else, especially when we're talking about slashers. It's so easy to come up with a new character and he goes on a killing spree. We see it over and over and over. But the way that John, the In a Violent Nature killer, the way that he rises up from the beginning, the backstory on him, things he wears, like the mask, the way that he looks. We even see a moment in the film where he is playing with this little toy, and you see a little bit of sympathy, a little bit of compassion. And it's crazy because this guy is going around taking people's heads and running it through their body. I couldn't even fathom that when I seen it, which brings me to the next part of this. So, what I love most about a good horror film are some really good practical effects. I am huge on practical effects, special effects. I love blood, I love gore, and I love when there is a scary tormentor with a good story. Some of the special effects in this film were just really good. There's even one that he did. I still can't wrap my head around it. I'm like, that's got to be practical, right? That's practical. It's not CGI. It looks like it's practical, but there's something that I, as a filmmaker, missed. I'm like, how did he do that all in one sequence, one shot? There's no sequence, there's one shot. He made somebody's head just go boom. You see the whole thing. Um, Very talented guy, did something great here. The only thing I didn't like about the film, and I know I'm not going to be the only person to say this, and look, I am not one of those critics that you'll never hear me just completely bash a film. I won't talk mean about it. I hate that, especially people that have big platforms. They don't realize how much they're costing these filmmakers. It's hard enough to make a movie, man. Like, don't make it harder. Don't start spreading shit where people don't want to see it. Everybody should go see this movie. I had to think about it. Was there anything I didn't like about it? And I noticed myself a few times when I was watching it saying, I didn't like that cut. I didn't like the way something was cut. Like he would be walking and then there would just be a cut and then he would be further up from where he was walking. That does work sometimes. I just didn't like where the cuts were, how they worked. However, it didn't take away from what I loved most about the film. And it's the way this John, this violent nature slasher killer dude looks. The weapons that he used. Again, that awkward tempo that I find in the film, worked for me. And I found myself like watching this movie as it was going along, trying to figure out why is this working for me? Because as a filmmaker, like I don't want to say like the scientificness of it is what really gets me off, but I want to say that understanding how somebody can keep me on the edge of my seat with something that is foreign to me that I don't understand, I'm not used to. Why does it work so good? And is it something that I could see myself implementing in some way, shape, or form without biting somebody's style? What do I like about this? Would I ever do something like that? There is an awkward tempo. Now, some people call that a slow burn. Um, I felt like it was different. I felt like it was something I haven't seen before. I was wondering what all the hype was about. Like, yeah, I was hyped about it, but I didn't know why this film was sticking out so much more than other things. And I've reached out to Chris. I would love to get him on here. I think he did a good job. There's several places on social media where you can see, like I've said, I'm proud of this guy. Congratulations. I truly am. I was not familiar with his work. I haven't seen his other pictures, which I've seen he does have other pictures. In a Violent Nature seems like it might be, without me seeing those, I'm guessing it's a lot different than those other pictures because it's one of the most different slasher films I've ever seen. Very simplistic and where they shot this thing. Most of it's done in the woods in the middle of nowhere. You know, there's a ranger station, there's a cabin, there's a little broken down ruins of a hut out in the woods. And this all stems from this guy. He's in the ground. He's been put away. This monster has been put away. And these campers, these little backpackers, having fun for the weekend, whatever, in the middle of nowhere, visiting this little graveyard in the middle of nowhere, take this damn necklace that this, we soon find out killer's mom, it was something that the father told him, like, she wanted him to have this necklace and he had this necklace forever. One of these guys, these campers, just take it off of his grave where he's at in this little hut. And next thing you know, he rises up and he starts raising hell. He's very, very terrifying, man. From the way he looks, the way he kills, very strong. He can take a shot, but he gets back up. Was there Jason vibes there? I went with my oldest son, and there was a few times where he was like, this really has Jason vibes. This has Friday the 13th vibes. And I get it. I get it. Because in a way, depending on how you're looking at this guy, what angle you're looking at him, he kind of does look a little bit like Jason would look under his mask. You do get to see a full frontal of this guy's face, and it is creepy. It is disgusting and terrifying and absolutely amazingly beautiful. I love it. I love all the special effects. I love the filmmaking technique that Chris and his people did. The sound is extraordinary. The reason for that is there's a creepiness that he delivers just by the sound of this film. It's the way that this killer is walking. Like, these steps become like a part of the horror. When you hear him trucking through the grass and the bushes, there's something like, he has a tempo. Everything is tempo with me, man. From the pace a movie moves, like, when you watch a Joe Diaz Dean film, you're gonna notice there's just action, man. Don't sit back and relax for too long. Something's going to happen. This film is completely the opposite of that in a good way. We're at a point where there needed to be something different, and he's delivered that. But there's something about the sound in this, man. From the footsteps make it scary. You even notice in the trailer, like, with every step he takes, you feel like he's getting closer to hurting somebody. You feel like he's got a violent walk. I haven't went down the rabbit hole too much to learn about some of the people that are a part of this production other than Chris. But it seemed like, everybody from the guy who plays the killer, John, to these other people, they did a really good job. From the ranger to the woman at the end that picks up the girl, there was just a nice there was something nice about all these people, the campers, around the bonfire. The way that was shot really good. There it didn't seem like there was too much with lighting that happened in this film. I was wondering, like there was points there where I couldn't even tell if they used color correction or not. There's a few points that I feel like maybe had been corrected. I'm a big lover. I love color correction, man. It can make or break a film, in my opinion. You can give you can take a film that's not that scary and mess with the lighting, adjust some contrast, mess with the brightness and some of the colors, and you can make a not scary film look scary. So if you take a scary film and then you add that to it, usually it's just that secret sauce right there on top. But that was something that, like, I looked at it and I'm like, a lot of this almost looks like it's just straight natural, and a violent nature. I mean, it had a very unique name. That's one thing I noticed from the beginning when I first heard about this film. I was like, that's an interesting title. And then I see the slasher, and I said the same thing. I was like, it kind of reminds me of Jason a little bit. But when you watch it, you won't see that at all. You won't feel that no more. Maybe in the beginning when you first see him, you're like, this kind of probably looks like Jason, without his mask on. But there's always going to be some kind of similarity when you hear a song or you hear something. Like, everybody uses a snare, like, come on. There's certain things that, like, are just going to be there. But the overall uniqueness of In a Violent Nature is really, really good. I was very, very impressed. And, I hope there will be a sequel. It'd be interesting to see where he could go with that from here. And I look forward to seeing more of Chris Nash's movies and later on down the road. He is a Canadian filmmaker I seen, which is crazy because I seen somewhere else where he was an Australian filmmaker. Whatever the case may be, dude's doing a good job, and congrats to him that he got one. Because, I just did another video. I was telling people, man, it's very hard to get a W under your belt when you're a filmmaker, and it's not always on money. I mean, you can have all the money in the world, you can have your movie in theaters, it doesn't mean you're going to win. There are people that spend $44 million to make a picture that doesn't make back $4 million, or some cases even worse, doesn't even make 400,000. We've seen that. We're gonna see it again. So, big shout out to him. Low budget indie horror, did really well, picked up in movie theaters, made over $2.1 million opening weekend. Super stoked for this guy. We got so many great films to look out for this year, guys. We got the return of Silent Hill. I think they did push Saw. I gotta look that up. But we got Terrifier 3 coming in October as well. And you got my movie coming October 11th. So there's so many good horror films coming this year. And it was great that In a Violent Nature came out when it did. I think it will inspire other people to say, you know what, maybe we need to try something different too. It inspired me a little bit. Like, there was one thing in there that really just stuck with me. And I think at the end of the day, it was how simple some of the shots were, how long some of the shots were. And usually I don't like that. I loved it in this film. It worked. So it depends on what kind of project you're doing. And if you're going to stick with that throughout the film, he's stuck with it. And there's a lot of very long shots of this guy just walking, little bits of action, but there's an eeriness to it. It also eats up a lot of film time. So, like in a film like mine, you're going to probably see a cut. God, every so many seconds, most likely. I like to keep things intense. Like I said about that tempo, that's one of the traits of my style. Like, when you watch a Joe Diaz-Dean film, you're gonna say, dude, it really, like, mentally is. There's a lot going on. It's not overkill, but there's a lot going on to keep you, like, it's building up. It's like a beat that is just going, and you might not realize it when you're watching it. You probably don't think of it like that, but it's actually doing that. And that's one thing that I hope that people realize and notice about my films. And hopefully one day they'll be watching a film. I say this all the time. My dream in life is that one day people might arrive to a film festival late and they walk in and they're seeing a film on the screen and they don't know who it is. They haven't heard anything about it. And they're like, dude, this looks like a Jody S. Dean film. Like, oh, it is? Oh, shit. Okay. You know, because I think that you can, if I seen Chris Nash, another Chris Nash film, I would anticipate that I would know that it was his film now, just because of like tempo, style, the way he sells his kills and special effects. He did a great job at that, at making it look like everything happened in one shot. Like, that's very hard to do a kill scene and not have a cut in there. And I think he snuck the cuts in there, and he was just so good at it that we didn't notice a few of them. So anyways, guys, go see In a Violent Nature. I'm Jody S. Dean. You can pre-order my new movie, Mallet 2. You can also watch Mallet 1 on Prime Video. Get ready to watch Mallet 2 on Prime Video. Pre-order the DVDs, though, malletmovie.com. Post every week here. Make sure you comment, share, like the videos. But until then, sweet nightmares. I love you guys.